You can forget a lot of things, Foster Care Nation, but never forget this. You're listening to Unparalleled Studios.
I signal.
Foster Care Nation, listen up. This is
Foster care and unparalleled journey.
strength for the powerless, courage for the fearful, hope and healing for wounded hearts. Hello and welcome back to Foster Care, an Unparalleled Journey with Jason. And no Amanda again today. Yeah, well, it started with English and I just left and went to gibberish. No Amanda again today, guys. We have a potential for a new little one. She's been visiting the hospital and she just got home, and we have two little ones in the other room with her right now who are wild children today, and so she is going to be taking care of all the important things as normal when she's not here, and I'm going to be pushing buttons and talking to people, so I'm going to do the easy job while she does the real work, and I know that. Please don't tell her, because I like that setup. It's way easier. It's way less diapers to change that way in my life. But today I bring an author to you guys, not just an author, but a former foster youth, a clothing designer, a foster care advocate, and a U.S. Army vet, Shalamar Parrish. How you doing today, Shalamar?
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing a little bit crazy, but good crazy, not bad crazy. So we're calling that a great big win.
Also,
Yeah, if you know the difference between good crazy and bad crazy, sometimes bad crazy can be real struggling, but we're doing fun things over here, just a lot of it all at once, and so we're getting caught up with life a little bit, and and so I wanted to talk to you because we've actually tried to schedule an interview a few times, but we keep having things pop up and life getting in the way. But we managed to get a hold of you today because I mean,
yes,
first off, like you're a former foster youth, right?
yes,
And one of the things we like to do is to hold space for foster youth or former foster youth to tell their story a little bit and let people know what their experience was. Because as it turns out, if you get to come to my house as a kid, I mean, I am super awesome. Ask all my kids, they'll all tell you how amazing and awesome I am, except for the teenager or one of the ones who's in a bad mood, or yeah, okay, maybe they'll argue with me. I don't know, but but not every foster story is positive in the long run. And if we're
yes.
honest, we know that, right? We know that.
Hmm.
We see the news stories. Oh, I've forgotten. Well, it was Gabriel something or other, the little boy who was killed in a foster home here a few years back, and just just horrible, scary things, bad things happen. So not everybody's story is the same, obviously. So tell us a little bit about your backstory, how you came into care, and what that experience was for you.
I first would like to say that foster care changed my life in more ways than one. At the time, I didn't feel like it was needed. I had to end up going into foster care because my uh, maternal grandmother, who was my primary caregiver, she ended up passing away from cancer. My mother and my father both were codependent on drugs and alcohol, so they were unavailable to raise me at the time. By the time that I was 12 years old, my grandmother passed, and I became unruly. No one in my family could do anything with me. And it wasn't until later on that I found out it was because I was grieving the loss of really both my mothers. And I wasn't going to counseling or anything like that. I felt like at the time, nobody was hearing me. I thought that I was telling them, hey, I'm hurt, I'm in fear, but I guess my actions were saying something totally different. And so um, I ended up being put into a group home. That was my first placement, and boy, was that a shocker. I was the youngest girl there. It was 11 other teenage girls who had been through the system, and so they kind of raised me. and
They were
it
all
wasn't
kind,
always
right?
a positive. No, they were. They for the most part, no. Um, they weren't kind to me at first, and what I mean by that is they didn't play with me. It was almost like I had 11 older sisters telling me, "Hey, this is the way that things are going to go." Now, not always was their advice good, because it had got to the point to where I don't know if you know about group homes, but every kid is supposed to get like a $30 stipend a month, and that wasn't enough for us, to purchase toiletries and things like that. Um, and so they would recommend that I go stealing, like they had gone stealing, or I sold my body like they had sold their bodies. So uh, I would have to say that I had some good experiences, but I also had some not so good
I can believe it. I can believe it because teenage girls are not known for their kindness anyways some days. Um,
ones.
I have a teenage daughter and she is a wonderful, amazing girl. 80% of the time. There's
Hmm.
20% of the time though that she does not wear her happy, kind, sweet face. And that's just that's life, right? I mean, let's
Hmm.
be honest, I'm not always a smiley, happy guy. And some days I may not be the kind of person you want to be around either. And teenage
Hmm.
girls, that's a hard time in life. And kids in group homes are not there because it's summer camp. They didn't choose that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, they're having, some sort of trauma occurred in their life and they're having a whole different world foisted upon them and they don't always react and act in kind ways towards each other. And even when
Hmm.
they are being kind, like you said, sometimes they're trying to give you advice that you shouldn't take all your advice from teenage kids for sure.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I had one
Yeah.
of the kids who was he'd tell me one day he didn't think he needed to go to school anymore because all the answers to all the questions were on Google.
He kind of have a point.
Well, he does, but I explained to him that all the answers are on Google, all the right answers, all the wrong answers, and part of school is teaching
Right.
you how to figure out which ones are which.
Right.
So yeah, it sounds like you had quite the traumatic experience stepping into that. You didn't have any other biological family who could step up for you at that point in time.
Well, several of them did. Like I was going from house to house, like in a matter of 6 months. I had stayed in like five different houses. When I tell you nobody could do anything with me, they couldn't. When my grandmother was living, she was my rock, and I could do no wrong in her eyes, and I tried to do no wrong in her eyes. You know, and so all my hopes and all my dreams for making her proud were gone, and now here I'm left with people that I knew really didn't like me. They felt like I needed a spanking a long time ago, you know. And so I wasn't going to let them start spanking me, you know. So in my family's defense, yes, several of them tried. They just couldn't.
Yeah, not all of us are what you might call ruly in our teen years either, and so that's a hard thing in a lot of families where maybe they
Uh-huh.
might try, but you mentioned that it took you a while to figure out that what was going on was the grieving
Uh-huh.
process because
Uh-huh.
our society does not always do a great job of understanding the grieving process and walking kids through that, especially kids who are in trauma that they don't
Right.
understand.
Right, right. Had I gone through counseling, um, I I have now that I'm an adult, I have spoken with my family members, on various occasions, and one of my situations were I didn't know how to tell you all what I needed. At the time, I wish I did, but I didn't know how to tell you all that, and I wish that I would have gotten some counseling because that's when I found out, hey, you're grieving, and this is normal. This is a normal part of grieving. Just when you're dealing with children, it's harder for them to express that. And a lot of adults don't recognize that. They're too busy dealing with their own grief, you know? And so I know better, now that when I'm faced with children who are going through some things, like I know what to do, and I'm pretty certain that my family members do as well.
That's one of those interesting things that a lot of communities don't view mental health, or in past a lot of times have not viewed mental health issues with any real seriousness, or anything less than a heightened level of shame. And so getting
Mm-hmm.
that help has oftentimes been looked down on. Was that part of the
Mm-hmm.
reason you didn't have any counseling at the time?
Probably so, because I don't remember, I don't recall anyone in my family that was going to counseling. No one. Our answer was go to church, um, turn from your wicked ways, whatever those might be. Pray more, you know. That's those are the tools that we were given. And so later on, with a lot of um, informative information, people now understand that counseling is needed, especially when dealing with trauma.
Oh yeah, yeah, because all those good book chapter and verse quotes are I'm not going to argue with their truth or their value. Romans 8:28 is a great passage, but when you're in the middle of trauma, especially as a kid, if nobody's giving you the tools, you ain't got the tools yet.
Right, right,
It's like
right.
asking me to program your computer, because you're going to have an
Mm-hmm.
expensive piece of junk when I get done, because I don't have those tools.
Right, right. Can I interject? This is another thing that a lot of current foster children and a lot of former ones have had an issue with, and I have the same issue. A lot of times, we we're not even told that foster care is an option for us. Hey, if you don't shape up, these are your options. you know, we're going to send you away. You're not going to see us, for 7 years, 10 years, as a punishment. Or, I feel like if a lot of children who are in foster care because they're considered unruly, I feel like if they are told, hey, this may be an option, you know, um, they may not want that option. They may shape up, but I was never given the option. And so a lot of my foster sisters and brothers, if I believe what they say, they weren't given the option either.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of kids. I mean, because let's be honest, how deeply do you know the intricacies of the foster care system as a grown adult? You know, just your average human doesn't know a whole lot of it. We have been doing it in
Mm-hmm.
our house for a decade and a half, and I still today we have a situation going on right now with a little girl who's probably coming into care in the next few weeks, give or take. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how they'll handle this. I pick up the phone and I'm calling workers like, hey, do you know the answer to this
Mm-hmm.
question? If not, who does? The licensing worker, the resource worker, the so and so. Like, send me to the people who do. But
Right.
kids, you're not handed that information. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know what that's about or
Mm-hmm.
what that even looks like. And so it's a lot more challenging to be able to get that information as a kid. Most kids, they'll go to Google and Google will give them an answer, and whether or not that's a viable answer is always a big question.
Yeah. Well, they consider Google the gospel.
You know, the gods of Google have spoken, right?
Right.
And Google, it's kind of like having a runny nose and Googling that and going to WebMD and asking it that what you should do, right? Because pretty quick,
Right.
you've got like some sort of cancer diagnosed through WebMD, and you're going, wait a second, hang on. I had some medical tests a while back, and of course they send the test over on a Friday afternoon. They come to the online deal that has all your healthcare stuff, and so I get all these test results back, and I'm googling all
Mhm.
these test results because I don't know what the myelin basic protein panel test means, that it's out this is out of whack. And I look it up, and I mean, I had myself diagnosed with goiters and gout and cancer and leukemia and everything else by the end of the week. And eventually I shut it down. I said, no, I'm gonna stop looking at this until I talk to my
Right.
doctor.
Right.
I pay a neurologist to know this stuff because
Hmm.
Google won't give me good answers, and
Right.
finding those resources is really tough for kids, especially a kid who's acting out because they're in some sort of trauma type situation that they're dealing with.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I
So
agree.
I know that you have your book Leading Lady, um,
Hmm.
and what is that about? I'm curious. What's your story about?
Uh, Leading Lady is loosely based on my life growing up. What I did was I wanted to um, show people both sides of foster care. I wanted to show people how some children end up in foster care. Sometimes it's not because they are unruly. Sometimes it's because of the decisions that their parents made. And I wanted to show people the downside of sending children to foster care, and they're forced to fend for themselves, so to speak. Uh, Not all children are as lucky as yours are to be put into a loving home that's not based on financial gain. you know. So a lot of children that I know are faced with going to such homes that are in it for the money, and hearts probably aren't always in the right space. And they tend to believe that they're raising themselves, that they're in this big old world alone. And so I wanted to relate to the readers in a way to where they knew that they were not alone, that there was somebody that understood them.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I talk about that whole idea about, being a foster parent for the money. And I kind of laugh at it sometimes because we're in the state of Missouri. And
Mm-hmm.
here in the state of Missouri, we are the second lowest paid state in the nation. You
Mm-hmm.
receive roughly $236 a month to raise a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've raised any kids, and you pay for diapers or clothes or whatever, all the things that it costs to raise kids,
Mm-hmm.
football camp and all. If you can do that on $236, I want to know how, because I'm trying to
Yeah,
raise
yeah.
kids and they're not that cheap. None of my kids are that cheap, right?
No, no. That's all they're giving you,
That
or
that
are you just generally speaking?
that's the state of Missouri's reimbursement rate for foster care. Is and it
Are
has a
you?
little bit changed from year to year. If you have a little one that's in diapers, there's a couple dollars on there for a diaper allowance, but things like that. But it's not a whole lot. Now
Oh, yeah. See,
there are ways to have a
excuse me.
child rated up and try and get more money out of that placement. From what I
Mm-hmm.
understand, um, I obviously don't know how to do that because I can't tell you, and we've never chased that route. Um,
Well, it needs to be foster care reform there, because they're basically they want you all to be living in poverty. I've ne- I've been out of foster care for over 20 years, and when I was in, my foster parent was getting almost $2,000 a month for me. So to have um, to have you in a situation to where they're given that little when the average foster care agency is making 15,000 or better a month for that same child, is ludicrous.
yeah, that's a crazy amount of money because we've never like I said, I talked with oh, what was her name? It was an actress a long time, quite a few episodes back, like a year or two ago. We talked with I think her name was Jen Lilly. That was her name. and she talked about
Mhm.
meeting a woman who was telling her how she should do this and that to get the kid rated up so she could get more money. And I mean, I'll be honest, we're not getting rich over here. I have a decent
Mhm.
job, right? I got a decent
Right.
job. I can afford to take care of the family. We've got a nice
Mhm.
house. Mind you, it was built in 1900 something, but it's a nice house in a
Mhm.
small town. We can
Right.
afford that. We can afford
Right.
the keeping the water and electric on. And yeah, sometimes when stuff gets a little crazy, when the boys get into a rock fight and I knock the window out of the car and I got to go replace it, yeah, the money gets tight because we're humans and that's how life works. But we can
Mhm.
afford to raise kids, and it doesn't hurt us at all to
Mhm.
usually make a little bit more dinner and and that kind of stuff. So it's not a big pull on us. We can get through this just fine. But for the people who are
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to use foster care as a way to go make money off of kids, I just need to be introduced to some of these people so I can take these big old hands my grandmama gave me and smack them upside the head.
Right. Well, what about the people who like, and I'm only really speaking for your state. Um, what about the people who have the willing heart and the willing heart to do just what you're doing, but understand that they are already partly living below the financial poverty level or close to it. It's kind of difficult for them to make the decision to bring another mouth in there if this is all that they're going to be receiving. So I think that in cases as your state, I think that it should be a complete overhaul when it comes to your state.
Oh, I don't disagree a bit. Part of the problem we have in our state is caseworker turnover. I had a question to ask a caseworker today, and I called and talked with her. I said, I don't think we've ever met before, have we? And she said, I don't think I've met you. And I'm like, well, we've been working in this county. We've been doing this kind of work in this county for 15 years. And I
Mm-hmm.
was counting back, I think 4 to 6 supervisors ago is when we first started doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And the turnover rate is so high here because not only is the reimbursement rate low in the state, but so is the pay for caseworkers and for people whose job it is to
Awful,
do these things. And I look at it, and
awful.
they're making $30,000 a year.
That's awful. That's awful. When, as far as I know, and please, if you can, maybe go to Google and get the real truth. But as far as I know, there is a federal law that states how much an agency or the state is given per each foster child. So for them to lowball caseworkers and foster parents or foster to adopt parents, I feel like that's an injustice, not only for the family, but more so for the kid, because that goes back to what I was telling you earlier. $30 for a kid to have a stipend is ludicrous, especially if they like Dove deodorant or um, they may want to get their hair done, especially for African American young ladies and gentlemen. They have to go to the barbershop or the beauty salon to get their hair done. So it's things like that that should be factored into reimbursement.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And,
We've got a little guy turtle,
excuse me.
and turtle's mixed, and but he has the more his hair is more the coarse black style hair, and he has
Uh-huh,
his hair braided down, and we he has it done on a regular basis, and we're fortunate we have Nana. um
uh-huh,
Nana is she is a great woman. Actually, his birth father, his best friend in the world, that he grew up with him. They were great buddies growing up, and that was his. I'll take that back. That was the daddy of another one of the kids that we have adopted, and so that's how we met her. And she comes over and does his hair for us because these big old My
Awesome.
hands are not designed to do small braids. Ain't happening.
Right.
I will braid my wife's hair occasionally, but that is because it is a single braid for the whole head. I ain't doing that little stuff. My hands won't handle it. But she comes over and she all and that's something we've been fortunate to find people who are willing
Mhm.
to help us out with their time and energy and do that. And she'll come over every 2 or 3 weeks and redo his hair, and he'll sit there and squirm and waller around and holler because it hurts. And then
Mhm.
when she leaves, his hair's all done and he's all proud of it again. And I have priced having that done different places. And I totally understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
If somebody
Mhm.
is financially strapped, getting hair done on a regular basis, especially if you have more than one kid, could get really expensive pretty quick.
Mhm. Mhm. And I really believe that that's why a lot of young men are going to braids and locks. I believe that they are put in a situation to where they can't keep their hair cut on a regular basis, and so it starts to get coarse, and then the next thing you know, they're getting laughed at, and so voila, if I could say that I'm growing my coarse hair for braids or for locks, then I basically fit in now.
Yeah, this little boy last summer, when he would climb out of the pool, his hair would come almost down to his butt, and
Mhm.
it has done nothing but grow since then. And
Mhm.
like he is adamant about his hair, and way more
Mhm.
than I ever was as a kid. Because as a kid, I just went to the barber shop when mom or dad took me, and you just got what they gave you.
Mhm.
But and I can do many. I've cut the hair of many of my own kids. I'm not afraid to do
Mhm.
that. But this is something that's important to him, and so
Mhm.
we try to honor his wishes on that where we can. And we're fortunate enough to have some family
Mhm.
members and some friends who step in and help in that. But not everybody can do that.
Mhm.
And your point is well taken, that there are a lot of well-meaning people out there who have big hearts,
Mhm.
who have small pocketbooks, because
Mhm.
whether life, whether, job issues, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm not here to judge what people are going through,
Right.
but they maybe can't afford to feed an extra mouth, especially if
Right.
you have a teenage boy, because those mouths,
Mhm.
they don't stop moving. They just keep going to the
Right.
refrigerator.
Right. And those feet don't stop. Their height doesn't stop. To take on a teenager this day and age is it's to be highly commended because yeah, it's the cost is triple having a toddler.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not here to argue any of the COVID stuff or anything like that, but amongst all this pandemic stuff, costs have not gone down on anything, I don't think, have they?
No, no, everything has skyrocketed. My grocery list is up to 350. And it used to be two.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's
So
something
yeah.
we've experienced as well. And just figuring out how to take what we have and stretch it a little further. Now, mind you, when Amanda
Mhm.
and I first got together 20 something years ago, we were raising three kids on $20,000 a year. We were what
Mhm.
was known technically as poor. Um,
Mhm.
we have lived poor. I know how to take a box of macaroni and cheese and three hot dogs and call it a meal. We did
Right.
that a lot, but fortunately, my job that I've gotten into has moved forward pretty well, and pay is
Mhm.
is catching up with the rest of the economy a little bit here, and so we can afford to take care of our family without those struggles. But not everybody has that benefit. I am
Right.
blessed, and not everyone is blessed in that way.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Okay. I also wanted to talk about a little bit. I know that it says here that you're a clothing designer, and I did go out and look at your website. I decided that I think what I need is a romper, because I I don't think I'm quite limber enough to get into one of those. So I don't know. I might just be out of luck. But I looked at that. What prompted that? That side of your life.
I have always been fond of fashion, and so I can remember as early as 11, 12, wanting to have a clothing line. But once I turned 14, I came up with the name for the clothing line. I came up with the mission statement, And so I just held on to it until I became an adult. And so the reason why I wanted to create today's woman was for the upliftment of women. What I was finding was that a lot of women were being judged by what they had on. And so I wanted them to know that regardless of what you wear, you still are valuable to society. Um, and this is this goes for the past, the present, and the predestined woman. We all hold a a valuable stake in this thing that we call life, and so that's why I created it.
Well, I will have to say one thing I noticed on your website is, um, now, mind you, for all the listeners who can't see me, I am 6'1" and 250 pounds of chiseled muscle, broad shoulders, narrow at the waist, just like that picture part. Okay, maybe not. I wasn't that great a shape when I left the army. But uh, I saw your website. I noticed that one of the things on there was that it was not necessarily just a whole bunch of Barbie dolls wearing your clothes. You have
No.
all kinds of different models, different shapes, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I've met a few women that are shaped like Barbie, but I haven't met many
Mm-hmm.
women like that. Most folks don't have that, that aspect in their life where they're trying to dress
Right.
themselves like a Barbie doll. Like they're real
Mm-hmm.
humans, and you've used a lot of real humans in your advertisement and marketing, and I
Yeah.
love that. I just wanted to call that out because
Thank you.
yeah, you don't see. It's funny now. I get all the ads on Facebook because Facebook knows everything about you somehow or another. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how they know everything about me, but they do. I must have bought a T-shirt online that was a double XL, and now I get all the advertisements for you know the best T-shirt in the world for big belly guys. And I'm like, damn, what? What did you just say?
Right.
What kind of
And
advertisement?
that's what you think of me.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue with the accuracy of that, but man,
Right.
that's kind of a cold way to advertise things to people. But I love the
Yes, it
fact
is.
that you are using real human beings as the models for your clothing line, and you're not just
Yeah.
playing the game that so many companies have done for so many years.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
body.
I felt like it was a little risky to do, but I feel like it represents who today's woman is. We're all shapes and sizes. We're all nationalities. We come from all different kinds of backgrounds, and so I feel like showing that, showcasing that is what's most important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because body shaming has been a real thing, and let's be
Yeah.
honest, young girls in who come through foster care are already at risk for so many things. And the last
Oh
thing
my
we really
God.
need to do is find more ways to shame them and tell them they're not worthy.
Right. Right. Yep. You're right.
Yeah, that's something I've seen. I've seen in my own experience. And talked about. My wife and I have been together for more than 20 years, and so we've talked about all the things over the years, and I understand how that can affect a lot of women, and especially young teen girls. Because let's be honest, we give teenage girls a lot of trouble, but you know sometimes they're a little bit challenging, but they're teenagers.
Hmm.
They're supposed to be.
Right. Right. Yes, they are.
Except
Yes,
for
they
me,
are.
I was not challenging as a teenager, and my mom was not here
You
to
are.
argue with me because she will argue that point. Trust me, I know she's argued it in public before. But yeah, we're all challenging. We all deal with a lot of stuff coming through those years, and you talked about some of the stuff that you went through as a young girl. Being in a group home, be even age because you aged out of the system, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you step out into a wide open world with a lot of things, and the last thing you really need is one more piece of society telling you that you are not good enough, just because
Hmm.
of a body.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
just I wanted to call you out for that a little bit and just say it's I think it's awesome that you do it that way, and if that's a risky thing to do, it's probably still a smart thing to do because truly you're marketing to human beings and not to models.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, um, you have also listed on your bio that you're an advocate for children in foster care. What does that look like? And
Yeah.
what do you do around that lines?
Well, just like I'm sitting here speaking with you, I'm advocating for foster care reform. Um, there needs to be some change when it comes to, i.e., money that's allotted for the foster family. Um, it needs to be money set aside for the foster child, and it also needs to be um, more. More resources for both. Meaning if the foster parent needs counseling, that should be given to them free of charge. If the kid needs counseling, it shouldn't always have to be where children's services want the child to go. I don't know about your state, but a lot of states and cities, the kids are directed to go to certain medical and mental health facilities, and a lot of them don't feel comfortable with that, you know. And so I think that they should be able to have the option of going where they feel comfortable. Once a kid ages out of foster care, I feel like there should be still a committee that oversees them. A lot of them are thrown out into this world without mother, father, or the overseer of foster care. And so they're out here just trying to find their way. And I think that is setting them up for failure. And so I go around speaking about this.
That's awesome because you're right. So many of these kids they leave the foster care system when they age out with no safety net at all, and the
Mm-hmm,
numbers tell the story, right? The number
mm-hmm,
of kids who are turned into grown adults and end up in the jail system, the percentage
mm-hmm,
of them that are former foster youth is a ridiculously high number. And
mm-hmm.
just
Yeah,
just like I mentioned to
another.
Booker today, this morning, like we either take care of these kids today, or we take care of them 20 years from now in a federal
Mm.
facility.
Yes, yes. Another thing that I do is I advocate for foster children and men, women, and children who were not in foster care, but mostly for foster children. Um, a lot of them are being sexually trafficked, either by force or coerced into doing it. There is 155.4 million foster children in worldwide, and then there is 437,000 in the U.S. and 60 to 70% of them will have experienced being sexually trafficked. So I feel like that is disheartening to know. It is something that again I experienced, and I feel like that has definitely needed to be changed.
Oh yeah, we just a few weeks ago spoke with Stephanie Olson, and that's a big part of her message, if not almost all of it. And we talked about sex trafficking in general with kids, especially the more vulnerable population of foster youth,
Uh-huh.
because it is frighteningly common,
Uh-huh.
and the number of
It
kids out
is.
there that are being trafficked is it. Quite frankly, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say it like I see it, and I think it's an indictment on our culture in general, and the
Uh-huh.
American
Uh-huh.
culture, that we kind of turn a blind eye to that. We know
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
exists, but what are we doing about it?
Right, right. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing to try to change that. Even if that means I have to tell my own story, you know, to get the message out.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to come in here and tell your story, because you have a story with some vulnerability that a lot of people are oftentimes afraid to tell out loud in a public place. And
Mm-hmm.
so thank you so much for your being willing to come in and tell your story and talk about the things in this life that truly do matter.
Hmm. Thank you.
Okay, Foster Care Nation, thank you for listening to Shalamar's story. And take her wisdom and knowledge to heart so you can create a love and healing in your own family and communities. Be sure to come back next week. We have new episodes every Tuesday. If you would like to share your story as a guest, you can reach us at jason@fostercarenation.com. You can connect with other like-minded people on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/fostercareuj. Don't forget, we have a Patreon account where you can support our mission for as little as $5 a month. It's at patreon.com/fostercarenation. The links to everything is in the show notes in your podcast player or at fostercarenation.com. And as always,
You are so super awesome. I think you guys are cool. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thanks.
Unparalleled Studios.